So everybody, thank you so much. It's a pleasure speaking at camp. My name is Juan Olarte. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Digitally Accessible. As mentioned, I'm visually impaired myself, so I know what inaccessible content means for people with disabilities. Just a few things about myself as well. I've been fortunate enough in my career to have worked in multiple organizations, wonderful organizations in the banking industry, government, as well as IT, where I have been able to work with different people in terms of accessibility, as well as with people with disabilities, and that has helped me a lot. Now, as we go, we are going to be talking about building an accessibility team from the ground up. So I wanted to talk about a fictional character. His name is Oscar Gregory. Totally fictional. Oscar Gregory works at a university. He is currently the project manager, and he started early on in his career. He started doing web design as well as some development. That has helped him understand how to successfully complete projects, as well as making sure that they're on time. Now, Oscar, for the past 3 years, has been an advocate in terms of accessibility, something that he found out, and he knows how important it is for people with disabilities to have equal access to information. Now, because of that, the university decided to give him an opportunity to turn him into an accessibility lead, and which is great. He's super excited. But with that, there's a few challenges that he's going to have to overcome. So what does this mean for Oscar? Now, his mandate. In terms of accessibility, the organization or the university said, for now, we're going to give you 2 specific mandates. First one is going to be, I'm sorry, I have to speak probably slower. I know, I get excited. One of the mandates is going to be, you have to ensure that we comply with federal and state legislations, and we have to ensure that all obviously university and everything like that is accessible. Now let me just go back. Oh, sorry. Now the challenge. Now obviously, because it's a very, very new team, and Oscar is going to be starting the accessibility team from the ground up. He doesn't have much information to begin with. Now, the only information about accessibility currently within the university is whatever he was able to create over the past 3 years. The next challenge is that the university, although it's telling him, yes, you can start your accessibility team, we don't have much money to do it. So you're only going to get a team of 3, and your budget is going to be very, very small. Which I don't know if many people here in accessibility know, that's usually what happens. We don't have a lot of money to spend, but we do have to do miracles. Okay, so what does this do for Oscar? And sorry. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about 5 specific steps that organizations can use to create an accessible team for the ground up. And the first one is going to be planning. And in planning, there's a few things or a few subtasks that you're going to have to do. First one, and I apologize, I'm going to have to go a little closer to the screen just to read the first portion. Okay, establish accessibility policies to comply with. Now, this really means depending on the specific location you're located, there are going to be accessibility legislations you're going to have to comply with. In the United States is the American for Disabilities Act, ADA. In Canada, we have Ontario with the Ontario for Accessibility Act, as well as the Accessible Canada Act is coming on. So that's going to be one of the first things you want to identify. What do you need to comply with? The next one, which is going to be really important, you're going to have to understand the type of projects your organization is going to be working on. Now, in this case, it's going to be a university, so they're going to have to work in document creations. That could be PowerPoint, PDFs, Word documents, as well as different web portals, web applications, or different apps, as well as third-party software, whether it's going to be learning management systems or booking systems. Now, it is important to understand or distinguish the web accessibility applications versus whatever is going to be brought into the college or university. The reason why is because depending on who is going to be working on the specific application, for instance, if it is a new website, likely the chances are is that you're going to have a development team in-house, or you're going to have another external development team that is going to try to create it. Now, you're going to have some control over that because you're going to create requirements, you're going to introduce accessibility early on, hopefully, and then you also have your procurement team that can be including accessibility. Now, with pre-made software, that's going to be more difficult because the reality is that software, depending on how old the company is, was created long ago, and they may be trying to create new versions of the applications, but they're going to be running with specific older generations, and many times they are not accessible. So first thing is making sure that you try to identify those ones, and then go to your procurement teams and see when are the next licenses going to be expired. Ask them if they have any VPATs. Let me go to the next one. Yes, the next one is now once you have selected the specific compliance, identify what are the different tools and you're going to be working on as well. The next thing is going to be identifying the specific standards. Again, this is going to be depending on the type of legislation. You could have WCAG Act 2.0, 2.1, or even 2.2, Section 508, or even the accessibility for digital accessibility within the European Union. There are going to be specific things that you're going to have to comply with. In Ontario, right now, you have to comply with levels A and AA of the WCAG Act 2.0. So that is also going to go into your document and in your planning. Oh, sorry. Now, okay, so the next one is going to be really trying to understand what are the technologies or assistive technologies your specific team is going to use. And why I want to include this early on is because you're going to be using screen readers. Now, not all screen readers are alike. You're going to have screen readers for people who are blind, and maybe some screen readers for people with cognitive disabilities. And you may also use screen readers if you use a screen magnification. I know personally I do, I use it. However, the features in there are not going to be the same. And also you want to expand to other assistive technologies, screen magnification, speech recognition. Now in here, I do have a screen reader for the Windows operating system, which is JAWS. NVDA is free. You can download it. If you are using a Mac operating system, I encourage you to use VoiceOver, which is quite good. I mentioned Zoom Text, and as I said, I'm visually impaired. In the beginning, I started using Zoom Text. I no longer do. I actually use the magnification from Windows or even from a Mac. So if you ever want to play with it, go to the Access Center and try to navigate. And use a quick side note, if you're going to navigate a screen, it's usually left to right, up to bottom, and it's going to be a portion of the screen magnified at a time. And this is great when you're doing testing, especially in terms of notifications. One thing that I got used to doing very early on, if I'm working with a form and I know there's going to be some kind of notification, I quickly move my mouse around just to make sure that I'm not missing any kind of notifications. Now, this could be really difficult if the magnification is maybe 14 times, which you're only going to be seeing a letter at a time, right? This is why it's important to keep that context. Okay, so and then still in our first one is going to be really understanding the skills that your team is going to have. Now, this could get really complex, especially in terms of the experience the person is going to have. Obviously, when you're going to be hiring for somebody with accessibility, you will like to see if they have experience working in other projects. That's going to be a good sign. If they have attended a specific certification program for accessibility, that's also great. But one of the things you want to do is for them to be familiar with legislation, for them to be familiar with different standards. For instance, the WCAG 2.0, 2.1, or 2.2, as well as the techniques on how to remediate websites. The other thing is you also want them to have experience with different assistive technologies. So by now you're seeing how our planning is pretty much creating a different list of checkpoints that we're going to be using to try to hire people. Ideally, you would like them to have experience with people with disabilities and how they use specific devices. Now, if you can hire people with disabilities, that's going to be great. Personally, I have worked with great developers that are blind, and they're doing accessibility testing. Now, there's going to be some things that they can do and some things that they cannot do. For instance, checking for color contrast, but those are going to be your power users, and you have to be careful with that, not to confuse your power user for assistive technology screen reader with a regular user. So again, you want some people to have some experience. You know what? This is totally me. I actually confused the slides because I wasn't able to see. So sorry, guys. Yeah, so this one is going to be actually our step 2, which is going to be getting the information ready for our accessibility team. Now, step 3 within our plan. Okay, so in here, what I want to do is make sure that we have the executive support. Now, because Oscar was actually given the opportunity by the university, we know that there is a specific degree of support. However, he needs to get that into writing, and I cannot stretch this enough. Because if you're given a mandate to make something accessible, but whenever you're going to be interacting with groups, you don't have that specific requirement, it's going to be really difficult. So one of the things that he needs to do after the information has been properly identified in terms of the standards, the legislation to comply with, different assistive technology, as well as the team that he's putting together, he needs to be able to convey to executives that now we have to make sure that accessibility needs to start early on within the development life cycle, and it has to be a requirement. So regardless of the project, one of the requirements is going to be, needs to be accessible. Just like if you're dealing with security is a requirement that has to be done. So accessibility has to be the same thing. Again, it's providing equal access to information. And a side note, when accessibility is done well, it's not only going to help people with disabilities, but it's going to help all users alike. Okay, so getting the team to work together. So you got your executive support, you got some of your teams. Now, because you have such a small team and you're going to be working with multiple departments within your organization, it's going to be a great idea if you can actually first set up a roadmap in terms of what you want to accomplish, as well as the vision. With that said, you're going to try to target specific team members to help you achieve a specific type of task. So for instance, if you're going to be working with documents, whether it's going to be Word documents, PDFs, or PowerPoint, while it shares some similarities with web accessibility, remediating a PDF document is very, very difficult. It's an art itself, right? At the same time, if you're going to be working on web accessibility, maybe the PDF person doesn't have that specific knowledge. So you want to make sure you assign the specific teams to those specific projects. The next thing is that you also want to start collecting or creating specific material that your team is going to utilize internally, as well as whenever they move and work with people within the organization. And I want to take that into 2 specific approaches. First one, initially you're going to have to gather information as to how accessible specific websites or applications are. And do not confuse that in terms of you're going to be doing the accessibility work for every single group. Because remember, there's only 3 people, 4 people if you're counting yourself, and that's not going to be enough. What you want to be able to do is create specific accessibility committees. You want to be able to reach out to different departments and let them know, hey, this is accessibility. We're going to be running training sessions. We're going to enable you to be an advocate for accessibility, and we're going to teach you how accessibility should be implemented. And we're going to be there to support you. That, in my experience, is the key portion of it, because if you let them push all the accessibility work your way, you're never going to be able to complete everything, right? You have to ensure that everybody's enabled to create accessibility, and then you're going to be there to support it. A good thing that I've seen with different organizations is that every single time that a project has been completed successfully, they start creating their own specific processes, what worked, what didn't. So you want to ensure you add those things, put it into a specific folder, or create a microsite, or create a Python library. This can be an evergreen document. You don't have to have it all at once. Just so you know, you can always grow with it, and then people in the organization are going to benefit from it. And actually, I went into this one as well. So it's pretty much that also includes getting the team working with the rest of the rest of the organization. So again, pretty much what I talk about is all about becoming a bridge to enable different team members to interact and know exactly what they need to do in terms of accessibility. Accessibility is not only, we're going to test for accessibility and that's it, or it's not the responsibility solely for the development team or for the product owner. Each individual person within the team is going to have specific information that they're going to contribute. Now, your role as the accessibility subject matter expert is to make sure that you're able to speak to each one of those participants or team members directly and say, okay, this is what you need to do in terms of accessibility. This is how it's going to work with development, with project requirements, and with testing. And this is how we're going to ensure people with disabilities are going to be included. Now, an important thing, and I actually didn't put it into the slides, is going to be the process you're going to follow. I usually like to have a 3-process approach whenever doing testing: automation, accessibility testing, manual functional, and then assistive technology. If you can do that with people with disabilities, that's going to be great, because you're going to get to experience how they experience the specific information. One caution, accessibility automation, great if you have thousands of web pages, but you have to consider that it only covers anywhere between 25 to 35% of all accessibility issues. So whenever you're doing your manual functional and assistive technology, you should take some subset of pages, representative, so you can actually provide a broader view of what the accessibility health for the specific website, application, or even Word documents is. And with that, I finished the presentation, so I thank you very much. Again, my name is Juan Olarte. I do think I have a Twitter account. It's never used, so don't. But I'm active on LinkedIn, and if you want to send me an email, I'm very happy to talk to you guys. And right now, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Thank you.